No man or woman will ever succeed in this house. As long as you stay here, success and prosperity are far from you. So shall it be. They said every tenant who ever lived in that compound left with nothing, not their money, not their peace, not even their sanity. Some left at night, barefoot, clutching their bags. Others simply vanished, their rooms locked from the inside. But no one could explain why the house seemed to hate its own tenants. Behind those quiet walls lived a woman everyone called Madam Peppa, small in size but feared like thunder. Her compound always had empty rooms, yet people still came, drawn by the low rent and her fake motherly smile. What they didn't know was that years ago, before the house was built, she made a vow that turned the ground beneath it into a trap for souls. It happened one lonely night when her heart was filled with anger and jealousy. Her husband had died, her business had failed, and her friends mocked her downfall. She stood in the middle of her land with a lantern and a clay pot, whispering bitter words as she buried it beneath the soil. Anyone who lives here, she muttered, will never prosper. Their joy will rot, their destiny will scatter. Months later, the house rose from that cursed soil, painted bright yellow, with shining iron gates that deceived the eyes. People called it Peace Villa, but peace never stayed there. When Daniel, a young graduate trying to build a new life, moved into room 3B, he thought he was lucky. The rent was cheap, the house looked decent, and Madam Peppa treated him like a son. He didn't know he had just stepped into a silent war between destiny and darkness. By Daniel's second morning in Peace Villa, the compound already felt strange. The air was thick, heavy, like the place was holding its breath. The sun rose bright outside, but inside the walls, everything looked dull or almost lifeless. He greeted two neighbors as he fetched water from the tap, but neither replied. They just stared, as if he'd said something offensive. Their faces looked tired, eyes empty, like people who had given up on life. Later that day, Daniel met Mr. Sunday Joseph, a man in his mid-30s with a wife and two children. They lived in the flat opposite his. Mr. Sunday tried to smile when Daniel introduced himself, but his voice shook. "Welcome, my brother. This house, it's peaceful," he said, then quickly changed the topic. Daniel didn't miss the fear in his tone. That night, Daniel heard their daughter crying for hours. When he checked the time, it was 2:13 a.m. The next morning, Daniel saw the girl sitting on the stairs, staring into space. Her mother came out and dragged her inside, whispering angrily. A few minutes later, Madam Peppa arrived, dressed in her usual red lace attire and black scarf. She smiled at Daniel, her gold tooth flashing. "Young man, how is your new room?" she asked sweetly. He forced a smile back. "It's fine, Ma. Just a little cold at night." Madam Peppa chuckled softly. "Cold means blessings are coming," she said, her tone strange. Almost mocking, Daniel went to work that day, but things went wrong immediately. His boss accused him of losing an important document he was sure he had printed. His small side hustle, online graphics work, suddenly stopped receiving messages. He told himself it was just stress, but deep inside, something felt off. When he returned home, he found Mr. Sunday sitting outside, staring at the sky. "Oga Sunday, are you okay?" Daniel asked. The man sighed deeply. "This house is not ordinary," he said quietly. "Since we moved in, my wife lost her job, my son fell sick, and every night, something walks around our flat." He looked at Daniel with tired eyes. "You're new here. If I were you, I'd start praying." That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. The silence of Peace Villa was louder than noise. Around 1 a.m., he heard footsteps in the corridor. Slow, heavy. Then, a whisper close to his door, a woman's voice saying his name. Twice, and for the first time, Daniel realized this house was watching him. Daniel went to work the next day, expecting a normal day at the office. He arrived early, greeted his colleagues, and started his routine, filing reports and checking emails. Everything seemed normal, until his boss suddenly stormed into his office. "Daniel, pack your things. You're fired." Effective immediately. Daniel's heart stopped. Fired? But, what did I do wrong? What's my offense? He asked, his voice shaking. His boss didn't answer. He didn't even look at him. Without another word, he walked out, leaving Daniel stunned and speechless. He walked home slowly, each step heavier than the last. By the time he reached the front of Peace Villa, his eyes were filled with tears. He sank onto the steps, completely broken. His job, his plans, his dreams, everything seemed to vanish in a single moment. That was when Mr. Sunday passed by. He noticed Daniel sitting in despair and stopped. "Young man, what's the matter?" You don't look happy at all. Daniel looked up, voice barely above a whisper. I just lost my job, and I don't even know why. They just fired me, no reason at all. Mr. Sunday shook his head slowly, sighing. My brother, welcome to Peace Villa. This is just the beginning. You haven't seen anything yet. Daniel blinked, confused. What do you mean, sir? The older man lowered his voice, glancing at the house. I've been stuck here for years. Anytime I try to leave, nothing works. It's like something drags me back. Jobs, money, happiness. Nothing lasts. You need to understand, my brother, this house. It doesn't let people succeed. Daniel's stomach sank. So, what do I do? Mr. Sunday looked at him seriously. Run while you still can. Don't wait. Nobody ever makes it in Madam Peppa's house. Daniel stared at the house, its quiet walls suddenly looking darker, heavier. A chill ran through him. For the first time, he realized that the trouble wasn't just bad luck. It was Peace Villa itself. Daniel barely slept at night. Mr. Sunday's warning played in his mind over and over like a broken record. Run while you still can. Those words refused to leave his head. By morning, he had made up his mind. He wasn't going to sit in that house and wait for his life to crumble. He would leave Peace Villa immediately. He packed his clothes into a small bag, grabbed his documents, and slipped his savings into his pocket. His plan was simple: go to the park, buy a ticket to anywhere, and start afresh. He didn't care where he ended up. Anywhere was better than Madam Peppa's house. Daniel walked toward the gate with fast steps, afraid Madam Peppa might appear and stop him. But the compound was unusually quiet. Even the children were indoors. It felt too easy, almost strange. But he didn't stop moving. He pushed the gate open and stepped outside. For the first time since he moved in, he took a deep breath of relief. A few meters down the road, he waved at a passing Kiki. Park, park, he shouted. The Kiki slowed down. Daniel climbed in quickly. Please take me to the park, he said. Just as the driver was about to move, Daniel realized he couldn't feel his wallet in his pocket. He checked his bag, nothing. He checked his pocket again, panic rising. His entire savings gone. How much do you have? The driver asked. Daniel's voice shook. I don't have anything. My money was just here. I don't know how. The driver didn't even let him finish. Calm down, I beg. I no get strength for story this morning. Daniel stepped out slowly, confusion and fear mixing in his chest. He retraced his steps, checking the ground, checking every corner of the road. Nothing. Not even one note. It was as if the money never existed. With no choice, he walked back toward the compound. Each step felt like defeat. When he entered the gate, Madam Peppa was standing near the corridor, sweeping calmly. She lifted her head slightly, giving him a small smile. Oh, Daniel, you're back early. Where did you go with your bag? Daniel froze inside. He didn't answer. He just walked past her, heart burning. Her smile lingered like she knew exactly what had happened. Inside his room, he sat on the floor, breathing hard. This house is not normal, he whispered. He didn't need anyone to confirm it. He had felt it, seen it, experienced it. Outside, Mr. Sunday stood at his doorway watching him quietly. You tried to leave, didn't you? He asked softly. When Daniel nodded, the man sighed. I told you, my brother, this place holds people. Once you enter, something changes. But don't give up yet. There is always a way out. We just haven't found it. Daniel closed his eyes, his chest tight. If he couldn't leave physically, then he needed to find another way. A smarter way. A hidden way. Something Madam Peppa didn't expect. And that was the moment he decided. He would find the secret behind Peace Villa, no matter what it took. That night, the compound felt heavier than usual. The kind of silence that makes your skin crawl. Daniel lay on his bed, staring at the cracked ceiling, replaying Mr. Sunday's words. There's always a way out. We just haven't found it. If there was a secret in this house, someone must have noticed something before, some sign, some warning, some clue. Around 11 p.m., voices started whispering outside. Not loud, but enough to draw attention. Daniel stood up quietly and moved to his window. 3 tenants were arguing in low tones, pointing toward the back of the compound. All of them that lived there before never lasted. One whispered, "Me, I know they passed that place once it's dark." Another replied. Daniel frowned. What were they talking about? He stepped outside slowly, pretending to take fresh air. Mr. Sunday spotted him and gently pulled him aside. You heard them, right? The old man asked. Heard what? What's at the back? Mr. Sunday's eyes moved toward the dark corner behind the last row of rooms. Room 7, he said quietly. Since I came here, nobody stays there. Anyone who rents that room never lasts up to 2 weeks. Daniel's heart beat faster. What happened to them? Mr. Sunday looked around before answering. Strange things. Sickness. Sudden madness. One woman woke up blind. Another man just disappeared. His things are still inside till today. Daniel swallowed hard. Why hasn't Madam Peppa rented it again? She tried, Mr. Sunday whispered. But whatever is happening there, it always exposes itself. Now she avoids that room. She even locked it permanently. Daniel brushed his hands through his hair. Then why are we still living here, if something like that exists? Mr. Sunday gave a bitter laugh. My brother, we didn't know until we were already trapped. Daniel's eyes moved to the back of the compound. For the first time, he noticed the door of room 7, old, dusty, chained, as if someone wanted to keep something in. Not out, a sudden breeze brushed past them, cold and sharp. Daniel shivered. What if the answer is in that room? He asked. Mr. Sunday sighed. Don't even think of going near there. But the curiosity was already burning in Daniel's mind. Whatever was controlling this compound, whatever had stolen his job, his peace, even his money. The truth was hiding somewhere, and he felt deep in his chest that room 7 held a piece of that truth. Later, around 1 a.m., Daniel stepped out again. The compound was silent. The only light came from the moon. He walked toward the forbidden corner, each step slow, careful. When he reached room 7, he stopped. The air was different here, heavier, almost like someone was watching him. The padlock hung on the door, old and rusty. But beside the lock, something caught his eye. A symbol carved into the wood. A circle with 3 short lines inside. He touched it gently. The moment his finger brushed the symbol, the padlock made a tiny click. Like it shifted on its own. Daniel jumped back, heart pounding hard. He stared at the door, shocked. He didn't force anything. Nothing touched it, yet the lock moved. A soft voice behind him whispered, Daniel. He turned sharply. No one was there. The compound was empty, but the voice sounded close. Too close. His heartbeat thudded in his ears. Something was waking up inside that room. Something that didn't want to stay silent anymore, and Daniel had just touched its door. People tried to find answers, and they end up worse than before. But if you must, start small. Observe, watch, listen, and never, ever confront Madam Peppa directly. That is how people get trapped further. Daniel nodded. I understand. I won't confront her. I just need to find the truth. He began his investigation slowly, walking around the compound, noticing details he had ignored before, a slightly cracked wall behind the last room, the way Madam Peppa always avoided certain corners, the strange arrangement of the garden that seemed deliberate, almost like it hid something. Later in the afternoon, he noticed Mr. Sunday talking quietly to a delivery man near the gate. Their conversation stopped abruptly when Madam Peppa appeared. Daniel realized she was always watching, subtle, quiet, controlling everything without anyone realizing. That evening, as the sun dipped low, Daniel sat on the front steps, reviewing everything he had observed. Patterns began to emerge, the rooms that tenants failed in, the parts of the house Madam Peppa never touched, the way she smiled at success and slowly drained it from her tenants without lifting a finger. His resolve hardened. There has to be a way, he whispered. A way to beat this house. A way to survive Peace Villa. And as darkness settled over the compound, Daniel made a silent promise. He would uncover Madam Peppa's secret. He didn't know how, but he would. And he would not let this house destroy him like it had destroyed everyone else. That evening, Peace Villa was unusually quiet. Too quiet. Daniel had been thinking all day, but in the middle of his thoughts, he heard something that pulled him out, soft crying. Not one voice. Several. Children. He followed the sound to Mr. Sunday's room. Through the half-open door, he saw the truth he had never witnessed before. Mr. Sunday sat on a small wooden chair, both hands on his jaw, tears streaming down his face. His wife was sitting on the floor, holding their youngest child, while the other two children sat beside her, weak, tired, and crying from hunger. There was no food in the room. Not even Gary. Daddy, my stomach is paining me, one of the children whispered. Mr. Sunday's chest rose sharply as he tried to hold back tears. My children, please forgive me. Please, he cried softly. I am trying. His wife wiped her eyes, shaking her head. How long will we continue like this? Every time we plan to leave this place, something stops us. Something always takes the little money we gather. Is this how we will end? Mr. Sunday's voice cracked painfully. God, what kind of struggle is this? What did I do wrong? Why is everything working against me? He stood up suddenly and faced the wall like he was talking to heaven directly. God, what is happening in this compound? Why is this place swallowing people? I need answers. I need help. I need money to leave this place before my family dies here. He knelt down, hands shaking. Every time I try to pack out, something drags me back. Every single time. When I gather, small money problem comes. When someone promises to help, story changes. When I find work, something destroys it. God, how long will this continue? His wife began crying again, hugging the children tightly. Sunday, we can't continue like this. We need to leave. He wiped his tears with the back of his hand, but another stream flowed immediately. Look at my children, he whispered. Look at them. Innocent children suffering for what they don't know. Daniel watched from the doorway, his heart breaking. He had never seen a grown man cry like that. Not out of weakness, but out of pure helplessness. Mr. Sunday finally turned and saw Daniel standing there. For a few seconds, he didn't speak. He just stared, eyes swollen, exhausted. Daniel, he said quietly, this is what Peace Villa does to people. It destroys slowly, until you have nothing left. I have tried to leave this place more times than I can count, but something always pulls me back. Daniel swallowed hard. Sir, I'm so sorry. Mr. Sunday nodded weakly. You're lucky. You still have strength to fight. But me, his voice broke again. I am tired. I just want my family to eat. I just want to be free. Daniel stepped inside slowly and placed a hand on Mr. Sunday's shoulder. At that moment, he understood something deeper. The curse of Peace Villa wasn't only destroying dreams, it was destroying entire families. And Daniel whispered to himself, I must find the truth for this family, before it becomes my story too. So early the next morning, he went straight to see a man of God that his colleague recommended, a quiet, humble pastor with tired eyes, like someone who had seen too many spiritual battles. Daniel explained everything. The pastor listened quietly, then said only one thing, give me time to pray. He entered his prayer room and locked the door. Hours passed. Daniel waited outside, pacing, sweating, whispering, God please, help me. When the pastor finally stepped out, his face was serious, heavier than before. Daniel, he said slowly, that compound you're living in, it is under a curse. Daniel's breath caught. The pastor continued, something is buried under the ground. Something evil. That is what is tying everyone down. But by the power in the name of Jesus, that yoke will break. Daniel swallowed hard. Pastor, are you sure? I don't joke with revelations, the pastor replied. Go home. Tomorrow, I will come to your compound for prayers and cleansing. Daniel thanked him and rushed home immediately. He didn't even rest. He went straight to Mr. Sunday's room. When he told him everything, Mr. Sunday sighed like someone who had been carrying the truth alone for too long. My brother, he said, shaking his head, I'm not surprised. I knew something was wrong with this place. What I want is solution. I want freedom. I'm tired of suffering. Daniel held his shoulder. Have faith. Tomorrow might be our deliverance. Mr. Sunday nodded weakly. They both sat in silence, hoping tomorrow would bring light. At exactly 4 p.m., Daniel and Mr. Sunday were sitting on the compound bench when the pastor walked in, but the moment his foot touched the sand of Peace Villa, he stopped. A cold chill ran through his spine. He whispered under his breath, Jesus, the presence here is heavy. Daniel and Mr. Sunday exchanged worried looks. The pastor took one more step and said loudly, there is a big force in this compound. I can feel it. Before he could finish that sentence, Madam Peppa burst out from her apartment with speed, like someone pushed by an unseen force, who allowed this man into this compound. Her voice was sharp, almost shaking the ground. Daniel stood up. Mr. Sunday wanted to run, but the pastor didn't flinch. He simply pointed at her and said, Madam, your time is up. Madam Peppa froze on the spot, breathing heavily. Confess now, the pastor continued, or be consumed by Holy Ghost fire. Everything has an expiry date, and your time is now. Immediately, the pastor began praying. His voice grew louder, stronger, like a trumpet in a silent valley. He switched into tongues, in the name of Jesus. The ground felt like it vibrated. Madam Peppa let out a sharp scream, so loud the neighbors shut their windows. I'll confess. I'll confess. She shouted, clutching her chest. Her eyes rolled, her legs shook. She fell to her knees, crying. Daniel's mouth opened. Mr. Sunday grabbed the bench to steady himself. The entire compound went silent. The moment Madam Peppa finished confessing, the whole place turned rowdy. People from neighboring houses rushed into the compound, shocked and angry. Some shouted, some cried, and some just stood with their hands on their heads, wondering how one woman could destroy so many lives. The elders of the community arrived shortly after. They listened to her confession from beginning to end. When she tried to kneel and beg, they pushed her hands away. One of the elders raised his walking stick and said loudly, "Madam Peppa, from today forward, you are banished from Akamu community. Pack your load and leave now. You must never return." Before she could defend herself, two young men grabbed her. She cried, begged, and screamed, but nobody cared anymore. They dragged her all the way down the street until she crossed the boundary of Akamu community. That was the final moment she ever set foot near Peace Villa. Back at the compound, the pastor turned to Daniel and Mr. Sunday with a serious face. "Both of you cannot stay here another minute," he said firmly. "The atmosphere has cleared, but this house is no longer a place for human beings. Gather your things and leave for your own safety." Without wasting time, Daniel and Mr. Sunday packed everything they owned. They didn't even lock their doors. There was no need. The elders placed a heavy padlock on it and hung a notice that read, "Compound closed, do not enter." That night, Daniel slept in a colleague's house. Mr. Sunday took his family to a friend's place. For the first time in a long time, they all slept peacefully. The next morning, miracles began to unfold. Mr. Sunday received a call from the company that had rejected him for months. They told him his contract had been approved and asked him to come immediately. He shouted for joy, tears running down his face. By weekend, he moved his family to a bigger and better apartment in town. His children finally ate until they were full, laughing like they hadn't laughed in months. Daniel also received a breakthrough. A top company emailed him with a job offer, good salary, stable position, and a beautiful staff accommodation. He signed the offer the same day and moved into his new apartment that evening. His life turned around completely. Meanwhile, Peace Villa remained empty. The gate stayed locked. Grass began growing around it, and nobody dared step inside. The compound that once trapped destinies now stood as a warning to the whole community, and that was how Madam Peppa's reign ended. Her secrets got exposed, her curse was broken, and the people she tried to destroy finally found freedom.
Please give this video a like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more interesting and powerful stories. See you in the next one.